important job, and it's just lovely for you to come this evening, and we welcome you. So if you can all look forward to your presentation. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Yes, so I'm just going to make sure I can move on. Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl. My name is Adam Carter. I'm a Senior Project Officer at the National Trading Standards Scams team, and welcome to this evening's Friends Against Scams session. This is a session that's available on our website, www.friendsagainstscams.org.uk, and you can access it at any time. I have made some amendments and added in a few bits for tonight's session. So the National Trading Standards Scams team started in 2012, so we're nearly 10 years old. And the main function of our team is to work with law enforcement, downstream access providers, mail providers, and identify scam victims. And we do this by trying to get access to things called victims lists or suckers lists, as the criminals call them. And what we do with that is we refer that information out to local trading standards officers and local trading standards teams throughout the country, and they perform intervention work with those scam victims in an effort to highlight the issues, raise awareness of the reasons why they may have potentially fallen for a scam, and to protect them from falling for scams in the future. We also have a number of projects that we run. So if we've got time at the end, I'll run through a few projects, such as call blockers. So we've been able to provide call blockers to vulnerable consumers in the UK. In the last 3 years, provided over 4,000 units, I think it is. A few projects around doorstep crime, around installing CCTV, Ring video doorbells for people who have been victims of doorstep crime. We're also looking at the moment into creating something called a MASH, a multi-agency service hub, where we're looking to get key agencies within police force areas to get together and to combat fraud collaboratively. We also have a team of investigators, and the investigators look into mass marketing fraud in relation to mail and telephone fraud. They work again with foreign enforcement agencies to identify scams and find out where they've come from and put together evidential packages to help these enforcement agencies go and disrupt the criminals or prosecute. But we have created also a consumer awareness initiative called Friends Against Scams. It's around 5 years old, or will be 5 in October, I think it is. And the idea behind it is to increase awareness around scams and to encourage people to build community resilience and to talk to their friends, family members about scams and help protect their local area. So together with Neighbourhood Watch, we partnered with Neighbourhood Watch in 2019 with the Communities That Care project, fraud prevention programme. And we did several face-to-face sessions in the Thames Valley area. And it's something that I hear is going from strength to strength. And there's more information on the Our Watch website. We created a full social media pack for it, which is available on request. Cheryl, I don't know if you've got it, but I will send it to you if you want it, so you can send it out to everyone.
Thank you. Adam, I've just got some feedback from the chat there. As you're moving, the sound is coming in and out.
Okay, sorry, I get nervous. Sorry.
No worries at all. It's just that some people find it hard to speak. Hard to hear, sorry. Thank you.
And we also created a bespoke training package for the Our Watch website, which is available on there as well. So Friends Against Scams. So anyone completing this friend session or the session that's online becomes a friend, and we add them to our Friends Against Scams counter. We're currently sitting at around 760,000. 770,000 maybe, and we're looking to get to 1 million by the end of the year. We are trying to blame COVID for the fact that we might not, but there's still a chance and we can still get there. And we do this by pushing this training out to our scam champions. A scam champion is someone who has signed up to deliver this messaging, deliver our resources throughout their community. They can sign up on the Friends Against Scams website, and they have access to our resources. They can also add numbers to our counter, so they get this session. I'd really encourage anyone to become a scam champion and talk to our friends and family about scams. We also have scam ambassadors. Now, a scam ambassador is someone who is in a position of influence, so it could be a politician, a CEO, someone in a high up job, able to deliver our scam message and make it a regional and national topic. We also have Friends Against Scams organisations. Now, a Friends Against Scams organisation is a business, or as it says, an organisation who, again, sign up and they can deliver our messaging throughout their business to their customers, to their staff, to their volunteers, whoever it may be. We created a video around 5 years ago when we started Friends Against Scams to highlight the scale of the problem, and we're going to just play that now. also quite an emotive video. That video is available on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and type in Friends Against Scams, you'll find quite a few useful tools, useful videos that you could show people around scams and scam prevention. So what we look at Friends Against Scams are the 4 key types of scams. Postal scams, as they are letters coming through the post. We'll look at an example of that in a minute. Telephone scams, doorstep scams, and online scams. Now, the National Trading Standards Scams team don't necessarily investigate online scams. We have a National Trading Standards e-crimes team based up in Yorkshire who look at fake websites, farming sites. But we do aim to raise awareness of them in the Friends Against Scams session. And again, similarly to doorstep scams are more localized. We're a national team. However, we do raise awareness. So we'll start with postal scams. Now, these come in a variety of forms, and this list at the bottom is not exhaustive in any way. So there we have lottery and prize draw scams. They have claims that victims have won like large sums of money on fictitious lottery or prize draws. We generally see that the lotteries are talking about foreign lotteries. So that's Australia, we see quite a lot of Canadian lottery, or Spain is another one, Ireland. And they come in, they say, you have won X amount of millions of pounds, and all you need to do is send us £40 as an admin fee to release your winning. It might not be £40, but it's usually around that amount, and people diligently send off their £40 to claim their winnings, and obviously they hear nothing back, or they'll get a follow-up saying we need some more money to release your winnings. It's been tied up in customs or something along those lines. There'll be many excuses that are made up as to the reasons why you won't have your winnings just yet, and it's all revolves around you sending more money. We see a huge amount of these coming into the team through our Scam Marshal program, which I'll talk about a bit later. Catalogue scams, so that's around selling false, misleading products, worthless home and garden products. We see a lot of miracle cures, so something that will relieve you from all your pain and anxieties, false claims. Some will also say that you will be entered into a prize draw. Now the prize draw could be for £10,000, £15,000, and everyone gets entered into a prize draw, and everyone that's entered into that prize draw wins a share of that money. Usually a cheque arrives for around 59p, and the majority of people don't cash it. Clairvoyant scams. So this is really quite a heartbreaking one, and it plays on people's emotions. It's a lot like a romance scam, so an online romance scam. And it's around people that claim to be able to talk to passed away relatives, or they'll say something along the lines of, we see great things for your future or bad things for your future. And if you want to find out more, please send us some money, and we can carry on the conversation, and we can send you trinkets that are going to help you. It really is a form of social engineering and quite a horrible scam. Like I say, it's very similar to the romance stuff that we see. Inheritance scams are something that we saw a large amount of in December for some reason. We don't necessarily know why. And that's around someone sending a letter stating that someone has died with the same surname as the recipient, and that this person who is sending the letter claims to work for a Far East bank, usually in China or Hong Kong. And together with you, they can commit their scam together as like in collaboration, and they can release the estate of this deceased person. Now, this deceased person doesn't exist, has never existed. And they'll ask you to make contact with them. And once you make contact with them, then that's when they'll execute their crime, and they'll start asking for money for fees. And it will carry on. It will start small, and it will get bigger and bigger and bigger. I've got an example here of a postal scam that came into the team towards the end of last year. It's around, as you can see, it's a cheque for £147,000 for the person who's going to respond to this letter. And there are a few signs on here that you can look out for to confirm that it is a scam. What the criminals always do, they'll always use your first name to make it more personal. So they make it to make you think that this is directed just at you, that this letter hasn't gone out to tens of thousands of people. And it's something that can easily be done on something called a mail merge, where they can just have a list of names and they can produce a document instantly with all those different names on. They'll have fake testimonials on the back saying Mr. C won £147,000 last year, and this is what he said. And Mr. C, and there'll be a fake quote from Mr. C saying how much his life has changed and how fantastic it is now. There's often a time-sensitive element to the letters, so it might say, please respond within 7 days, or you could lose out on receiving this money. Now that's designed to put people into a red state, put people under pressure where their decision making becomes impaired, and people get worried and they feel like they need to respond there and then in order to release this money and send off their money. If people have time to sit back and think, they might realize it's a scam, and that's the reason why they put the time pressure on. Generally, they will come with a return addressed envelope. We see a lot of return addresses in Eastern Europe, so Hungary, Czech Republic, even Austria as well. And they use PO boxes. Now that's, so they don't have an address. So it's just a PO box somewhere in a random country. The reason why they do that is to avoid detection. And it means that they can easily pick up and move on somewhere else once they get detected, and they can move away. They often tell people to keep their winnings a secret. There's a great website called Think Jessica, where Jessica was a lady who was socially engineered, groomed into responding to these scams, and her daughter created a campaign called Think Jessica, and it talks about how these criminals ask you to keep your winnings a secret. They say they'll just come after you for your money, they'll be friends with you for your money. And that's because once people start verbalizing these opportunities, they realize that it's not a scam. So they don't want them to talk to anyone, and they don't want anyone to convince them that it's not real, it's not true. They generally will always request either money or information first, so personal details. And again, it's around that £40 mark. It's just enough for it to be worthwhile to them, as they're sending, like I say, tens of thousands out of these a year, and it will ask for money first. Again, made to look authentic with directors' names. So some of the directors' names we've seen I want to say quite funny, but it's quite sad and horrible, and they'll have really dodgy titles like money disbursement manager or something along those lines. Moving on to telephone scams, we've seen a large amount of a huge increase in telephone scams since the beginning of the pandemic, where more and more people are at home, therefore more and more people are answering the phone. And they come in these four ways. So billing impersonation scam. So that's someone claiming to be from Amazon or Netflix or British Telecom, or someone saying that you need to pay for your bill, and that if you don't pay for this, then a service could be interrupted. Again, it's very similar to the service interruption scam there. I've got an example of the Amazon scam here. They're generally all what we call robocalls, so automated messages asking you to push a number to connect.
This is a call from Amazon. Your Amazon account and internet security has been hacked, and you have been subscribed for the Amazon Prime membership for 99.99 GBP from your bank account. To unsubscribe or cancel the services, press 1. I repeat, please press 1 to speak to our expert team.
So that's around trying to get you to connect to them. Now, what we've seen here is the consumer will press a number to connect, so that they'll press 1 to connect. and they'll get put through to an operator. Sometimes they'll get put through and the line will be dead. And that's because they've got a team of operators in a call center, and people are pushing one to connect through. And if they've got an influx of people trying to connect, then there's no operators available to answer that call. But generally they'll answer the call and they'll explain to you that they can cancel the subscription and that actually you're due a refund. And in order to get that refund, all they need is your card details. And once they have that, then they can then use those card details to get money from your account. Pension scams, it is now illegal for companies to cold call consumers to talk about their pensions. What we see here is that people will contact them and they'll say, we can release your pension early. All you need to do is hand over the details to us, and then we can use that money and we can make it bigger, or we can invest it better than your pension company. And generally it results in people losing their life savings, and it's very, very sad. Tech support scams, or what used to be called the Microsoft scam. That's when you get contacted and told that there's a problem with your computer. And in order to fix the problem with your computer, they'll need access to your computer. Now, they may charge a fee for this, but sometimes they don't charge a fee, but they'll get access to your computer and all the information on it if you give it to them. There's another example here of an internet service provider, which I'll play now as well.
This call is being forwarded from British Telecom. In order to inform you that your internet and landline connection will be terminated from today onwards, please press 1 in order to connect to the technical team and fix up the problem, or press 2 to continue for the termination process.
Again, these are robocalls. Now, the information we had from the call blocker projects that we did starting in 2016, I think it was our first one, but it was a while until we did the second one in 2019, was that the call blockers that we use were the TrueCall Secure Plus units, and it actually blocked 99% of all scam and nuisance calls. It was a very good project, and we very much recommend for people who are in receipt of these calls on their landline to have a look at call blocking technology. I talk a little bit more about that a bit later. So doorstep scams, again, like I say, this is more of a localized problem, but they come in a couple of forms. So doorstep callers, rogue traders, that could be someone knocking on your door saying that they've got some spare materials left over from a job they're doing around the corner and they'd like to do your driveway or your roof, and they can do it for really cheap. They can do a really good job, but they demand the money up front. Once the money's been paid, then generally you won't see them again. Or if you pay for some work to be done, then it may well be that they do it, but it's really poor workmanship and it costs a lot of money to fix. A good way to prevent these would be putting up no cold calling stickers, or even maybe a video doorbell or a security camera, and that then generally deters them, or even a sticker saying you're on CCTV. Another quite horrible one is a distraction burglary from bogus callers. So they might be on the doorstep selling cleaning products or other products. When they're at the door with you, there could be someone else going round the back and trying to gain access to the house and trying to steal what they can find. There it says if you enter into a contract with a doorstep salesman, you're legally entitled a 14-day cooling off period, so you can say no up to 14 days afterwards. Moving on to online scams, I suppose there's four big ones here, and the first one that we've seen that's been increased in terms of reporting in the last year is romance scam. Now, as people moved into lockdown in March last year, they became lonely, socially isolated, and they started looking for love online. And a lot of people using these platforms had never used them before, so they became situationally vulnerable. A romance scam is committed by a criminal who creates a fake profile. They'll use photos from people in the military. They'll claim to be that person, and they'll claim to work for either the military or maybe even the World Health Organization or some kind of global organization, Greenpeace. And that way they can convince you that they are out of the country, or they could be somewhere where they don't get a very good internet connection. And they'll charm them, they'll gain their trust. Again, they'll groom them and socially engineer them, and they'll tell them that they love them. And that person, the recipient, wants to believe in it so much. And after a while, they'll start building in problems, medical fees, legal fees, school fees for their children or something like that. And they'll start asking for a small amount of money, and they'll say, soon we'll be together. Or they may even ask for money for a flight from wherever they are to come and see you. And they'll, again, like I say, it's small amounts of money at first, and then that will gradually grow and gradually grow, and until they've got all the money and they walk away. What we see is these generally come out of West Africa, and it's quite a problem there. But it's a really, really horrible crime, and it really plays on the emotions, and it can have devastating effects for the victims. A phishing scam is an email that can come in, and it's phishing for information. So it'll ask you for, it can say, I'm from BT. So it's a bit like the impersonation stuff, and it'll say we're from BT, Netflix, you owe the X amount of money, and please click on this link to then go through to what's called a farming site. Now, a farming site is something that mimics a real website, so it looks legitimate, and we've seen some very, very good ones. We've seen some very, very bad ones, but there'll be good websites that look legitimate, and they'll ask you to put in your username and your password, and once they have that, they can then again execute their crime, and they can use your details to purchase things or to even get money from you. Social media, again, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people moved online. We're using social media a lot more. Facebook adverts started rising. Now, there's not a fantastic vetting system for Facebook adverts, it's fair to say. And there are a lot of things on there that aren't quite as what they seem. So if you see an advert on Facebook for something that you really want, or a product that you really want, we would really recommend that you research the company, have a look at Trustpilot, although that's not 100% guaranteed. Have a little look at the company, see what other people are saying about them before you make that purchase. So this is an example of a phishing scam. We saw this in the beginning of the pandemic, where people were entitled to, an email came in claiming to be from HMRC, saying that you have a refund. In order to get your refund, you just need to click this link, and it will take you through to the farming website where you can enter your details and get your refund, when in reality we know they need to get your details so they can impersonate you and take your money. So there's some key signs here. So it's not addressed to you here. It says, dear taxpayer, no reference numbers attached. The hyperlink there where it says claim your tax leads to a phishing website or a farming website. There's no explanation for the refund. So if you highlight over the email address that sent it to you, we see a lot of fake people claiming to be from .gov.uk. So that's the official ending for HMRC, .gov.uk. But what we might see is .gov.com.uk or .gov.uk.com. There's variations to make it look the same and make it look legitimate. Sometimes some of them we see that have nothing to do with .gov.uk and just random letters and accounts. And they'll always provide a sense of urgency, claim your refund now, that kind of thing. Again, that's the red state. So how to spot a scam victim? If you've got someone that you know that you think may well be a scam victim, there's some signs to look out for. So a victim of a postal scam might be making a lot of trips to the post office, receiving a lot of mail, using a lot of stamps, or going through a number of checkbooks. I haven't written a check for many years. I don't think I ever will. And maybe a few products and free gifts around the house. So what we see is the clairvoyant scams. They might introduce a few trinkets, a few lucky charms into their mailing. Now, that's not only to convince the consumer that it's legitimate and it's real, but it's also to avoid going through the sorting machines at mail providers. Telephone scam. So the victim of a telephone scam probably will be receiving a lot of phone calls, making a lot of unusual payments, maybe answering the phone when you're there, but they'll put the phone down quite quickly. Then they'll say something along the lines to the person on the other end, can you call me back in 15 minutes or something along those lines? And they might say that it was a helpful caller, not actually reveal who it was.
Apologies, Adam. Could you
Yes.
speak closer to your microphone, please? Because the sound is going in and out quite a lot now.
I'll get close.
People are finding it very hard to hear. Thank you very much.
No problem. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. So a victim of a doorstep scam, like what we said with the distraction burglary and the rogue traders, there may well be poor quality work, poor quality drive, roofing done. They might be worried or fearful, and they might be making large cash withdrawals. In May 2019, something was introduced called the banking protocol, where consumers withdrawing large amounts of money from a bank counter will be subject to a few questions, and if the bank teller or cashier believes that it's for a scam, then they can phone the police on 999, quoting banking protocol, and within 20 minutes a police officer should be at the branch talking to the consumer. And in a lot of cases they're able to go back to the consumer's home and arrest the person that's still there. Online scams, it's a lot harder to spot, but they may well be in a position of self-neglect, or stuff around the home isn't being done, receiving lots of suspicious emails, final demands. Could be talking about an online relationship that they're having. It's a good sign, and making large amounts of payments. Again, in all cases, financial hardship or self-neglect are quite big here. Now, there is a scam out there for everyone. So young people might be victims of social media scams, rental scams. That's quite big when it comes to the new education year, the new year. For university students, might be victims of rental scams. But what we find is that the average age of a scam victim is around 75. And we don't necessarily say that people are vulnerable. However, what we do say is that people's situations make them vulnerable. So if they have a health issue or living with cognitive decline, they could be reading a mail scam, and it might not actually make any sense to them. But what it might say at the very bottom is, please send £40 into this envelope, and they'll read that and say, oh, okay, I've got to send £40 in this envelope, and they'll send it off. People socially isolated or lonely, gives them something to do, a sense of purpose. They're put under pressure. And once people have responded once to a scam, they're put on a list by the criminals called a suckers list, and they're repeatedly targeted. And that list can also be sold on to other criminals. So the consequences of falling for a scam, the increased debts is probably a small amount of the consequence. The emotional impact is far greater, we find. So people could find themselves in poor mental, physical, emotional health. Sadly, some have tried to take their own life and actually done so. It can damage relationships. Again, I'll refer back to the Think Jessica campaign. If you look at the Think Jessica website, it really does talk about how the relationship was completely ruined between Jessica and her daughter Marilyn. Like I say, again, there is repeat victimization. Once people respond, they're on that list and they'll be continuously targeted. There was a study in 2012 where people who are victims of doorstep crime were 2.5 times more likely to go into care or pass away within 2 years compared to their non-defrauded neighbours. So it's quite a horrible thought. People don't feel safe in their own home and want to move out. So the tactics used by criminals, they will start off appearing legitimate. They'll be friendly, charming, nice to you. It's all part of the social engineering. And once they've got you hooked, once they're in, they can become quite horrible and quite nasty and aggressive and threatening. We've seen this recently with cryptocurrency scams. So consumers are being contacted, being told that they can invest their money with them, and they'll ask for a small amount of money at first, and they'll show them that small amount of money has turned into quite a large amount of money in a relatively short time. And they'll say, imagine what I can do with £5,000, imagine what I can do with £10,000. And once that's happened, and they can become persuasive and horrible, really quite demanding. One we've heard is that they've said, oh, but you own your own house, you live here, it's very, very nice, surely you can raise £5,000 and put it into this, surely. And it becomes really horrible and intimidating. And it's all designed to extort personal information or money. Now, what can you do to protect yourself? We preach about Take 5. Now, Take 5 is a website. It's a campaign designed by the Financial Conduct Authority, and it's around taking 5. So taking 5 seconds, taking 5 minutes, taking 5 days, 5 weeks, whatever it may be, just to think about what's being asked of you, and just to try and get yourself out of that red state that you might be in, and just think, stop and think. So it's about stopping and thinking about things. It's about challenging it. Does it appear real? You can refuse it. It's okay to refuse it. So you challenge it and protect. If you've been a victim of a scam, we say you report to the bank immediately. You may well be able to retrieve some of your money, and to definitely report it to Action Fraud. As we saw in the video, only 5% of scams are ever reported, or we believe. And the more that we can report, the more enforcement agencies will have to take this seriously. So please report it. So talking to friends and family about scams and helping them. If you know they've been a victim of a scam, like I say, contact their bank straight away. If they've paid for something on a credit card, they may be covered by Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Tax. Or if they've paid for it with a debit card or through a bank transfer, they may be covered by something called the contingent reimbursement model, where people can prove that it was a scam, and the banks should refund in most cases. Take time to listen to the person that's been the scam victim. There is a lot of shame, stigma attached to being a scam victim. Like I said before, anyone can fall for a scam, and there is a scam out there for everyone. So please take your time to listen and don't judge them. I've been through that one. Report to Action Fraud. If it's business related, you can report it to Citizens Advice. Now, reporting to Citizens Advice means that it gets reported directly to your trading standards area, your local authority trading standards department, and they can investigate it. They also offer some really good advice on scams and fraud. The proactive steps you can take to stopping the criminals contacting you altogether. I spoke about call blockers earlier. They really are the best way to stop criminals getting in touch with consumers. like I said before, it blocks 99% of the scam and nuisance calls in the unit that we use. Now, a lot of telecom companies provide their own call blocking service. I think Sky Shield, BT Guardian, that kind of thing. So it's worth checking with your telecom provider what they provide. And in most cases, it's free of charge. So if you receive in receipt of a lot of scam and nuisance calls to your landline, then it's really, really worth checking, contacting your telecom company first. And if not, maybe consider purchasing a call blocker. Some local authorities also have call blocker projects going on, and you may well be able to get one from them free of charge. The MPS is the mail preference service. TPS is the telephone preference service. It's free to register with them. Now, what that does is it removes your name from marketing lists. And any legitimate company within the UK has to adhere to the MPS and the TPS. So for the mail one, if you register with the MPS and you receive a large amount of mail, that will start reducing down. Now, what I would say to that is it reduces the amount of legitimate mail, so marketing mail. It doesn't stop the scammers sending or stop the criminals sending mail or making telephone calls because they don't care about the MPS or the TPS. They're not checking their lists against that register. Once you've registered, after 28 days, you should stop receiving these marketing calls. For doorstep crime, like I said, Ring video doorbells or something called a guard cam can really help deter these criminals. If they know it's being recorded, they will not go near your front door. A Ring video doorbell requires internet connection. It also requires the use of a smartphone. So if that's not something that you have, then there is a product called a guard cam, which doesn't require any of those, and it records any motion that's been sensed. It records it onto an SD card, so therefore there's no need for a broadband connection. For online fraud, we recommend the use of a password manager. Now we also recommend very difficult passwords. Please use difficult passwords. Don't use the same password over and over again for multiple accounts. But the use of a password manager can help you remember that. So that's one space where all your passwords are stored, and it's protected by a multi-factor authentication or a biometric of your face or your fingerprint. Multi-factor authentication, we recommend the use of that wherever you can. So that could be on online banking, even on your phone, email accounts, any kind of financial website or app on your phone. And it's about using another device to connect to your account on your computer. So it may well send you a one-time passcode to input, or again, check your face. Also, please update all antivirus. If you get an update on your phone or your computer or any device, please make sure you update straight away, because they contain security patches. So someone like Apple might have detected a security issue, and they'll create a patch for it and release it as soon as they can in order to protect your device. As part of the Friends Against Scams initiative, we have some things called scam marshals. Now, scam marshals have been around for about 3 years. A scam marshal is someone who's been a victim of a scam or being targeted by scams, and they sign up as a scam marshal, and what they do is they send in any intelligence into the National Trading Standards Scams team. So they'll send in their mail. They may even send in telephone call logs. And we use that information as real-time intelligence to investigate the mass marketing fraud. There's some stats there on after 3 months of joining the scheme, these scam marshals feel happier, feel safer in their own home. They feel like they've got a sense of purpose that isn't responding to the scams. And in December last year, we actually won the Tackling Economic Crime Award for Outstanding Prevention Initiative, which we were very proud of. So yeah, really, really good scheme. And if you know someone, or even yourself, do you think would be able to do that, would be great. They receive a badge, they receive a certificate, they also receive a monthly newsletter talking about the current scams that their team is seeing. A few slides here on COVID-19. on the rise that we saw in investment scams, romance scams, and CEO fraud. Huge increase in the romance one. That was our real concern, our real worry. People being away. Increased anxiety and worry impaired our decision making, creating a vulnerable nation. We were all vulnerable. We were all worried and anxious about the pandemic, about COVID-19. So we were all worried and vulnerable. Throughout last year, we saw. So I'm just going to have a quick cough. I'm just going to mute myself. Thank you. I wasn't allowed to unmute myself. Once I muted myself, I wasn't allowed to unmute. Quite bad. So here are just some of the scams that we saw last year. The real big one came out actually in December, and it was the text message scam claiming to be from Royal Mail, Yodel, DHL, a delivery company, asking you to pay a very small amount. I think it was around £2, £1.99. In order for you to get your package. They might have said that we missed you, so please pay extra to get the package redelivered, or that it's had problems getting through customs, and it will take you to the farming site where you can enter your details, and again they've got your card details, bank details, and they're able to extort money from you. Now, reporting is really key. Like I said, only 5% are reported. So if you're in England and Wales, please contact Citizens Advice on that number or online. And again, Action Fraud is the reporting service for England and Wales. Again, there's a phone number there. If you've been the victim, please contact your bank immediately. In Scotland, the numbers are slightly different. They ask for it to be reported to Advice Direct Scotland. And in Northern Ireland, they have something called Consumer Line, but they still use Action Fraud. Please follow us on social media. There again, there's our links on Twitter and Facebook. We generally use the hashtag #ScamAware in all our tweets and all our posts, so you can find us that way as well. And like I said before, the YouTube channel is really full of some interesting videos and good videos to help raise awareness of scams. So that is it from me. I've just got a very short video to show you. I apologize for the music, but it's just to congratulate you for completing the Friends Against Scams website. Oh, sorry, training session. And that's it. Cheryl, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Apologies about the sound, everybody.
I will admit now that at the beginning of COVID, I tried to buy a webcam. They were all sold out because everyone was buying webcams. So I went for the only one I could, which was actually the cheapest option. So it's probably run its course now.
Do you know what? It's okay. It's okay, Adam. You know, we had fantastic slides, and you covered everything that was on the slides. So great, thank you very much. I've got a few questions for you that have come through the chat, and everybody said not Adam's fault, excellent presentation. So
Thank you.
So don't worry there. But some of the questions was, are we able to target scammers through honey traps?
Please don't.
Please.
Please don't. No, please don't. Yeah, it's really not a good idea. If you come across
Absolutely,
a scam or a
thank
scammer,
you.
then please report it. Yeah.
Yeah, and leave
I'm
it
not
to
gonna
the
sit here
police and the authorities. Yeah,
yeah, it needs to
absolutely.
go through the proper authorities.
Perfect. Also, do you know anything about the Telephone Users Fraud Forum? And do you know if it's still running?
The telephone, sorry?
Telephone Users Fraud Forum.
Do you know what? I don't know about the Telephone Users Fraud Forum. What I would say is that the team have really looked into telephone scams over the last year, and we are trying to bring together the telcos, the telecom companies to sit around the table to really talk about and discuss. We also work quite closely with the ICO on this as well. So there is work being done.
Lovely, thank you. And does opening an email send a message to the scammers of an active email address?
So yes, it can do. You can definitely get read receipts. So it will notify. It probably can notify criminals of an active email address. It doesn't necessarily mean that the scam. It doesn't mean that the scam can be infiltrated until you act on what's in the email. So don't click on any suspicious links, and you can actually report it to. You can forward any suspicious email to report@phishing.gov.uk. So that's report@phishing with a PH .gov.uk. Sorry.
We'll put that into the chat as well. Thank you, Adam.
Okay.
Also, what is CEO fraud?
So CEO fraud, it's along the lines of impersonation scam. So a CEO fraud, so if someone is at home working away, they're remote working because they're now at the office, they may receive an email from someone. It looks like it's coming from the CEO, the chief executive officer, and it could be saying something along the lines of, I need you to transfer £10,000 into this account. I need to do it quickly. I'm about to go into a meeting, so can you just do it now for me, please? And then the person sitting in their computer sees an email coming straight through from a spoofed email address, and they'll just transfer the money over without even thinking about it, because it's come from someone in a position of power. They don't want to upset them. They don't want to, and they're going into a meeting. They can't interrupt them. The problem with the pandemic is what it did is it removed people from the office environment. It removed them into a socially isolated situation. So they don't have something called what we call the water cooler moment. I think it's probably an American term, where you're able to talk to people and bounce ideas off. Again, like I say, verbalizing what's actually happening. And once it's verbalized, again, you realize and you see it. So yeah, I think that's the reason why we saw a huge rise in that last year.
Brilliant, thank you. Somebody's asked, somebody's put it already in the chat. Thank you, Kim, for putting it in the chat. Was asking about can we show the action fraud number again? And how can we help locally? How can we help get the message out for those, particularly the older generation? And I know you alluded to our scam Communities That Care program within Neighbourhood Watch, which does directly that, doesn't it? And something
it does
that
indeed.
They can do.
I'll let you talk about that.
So our Communities That Care program that we do on through Neighbourhood Watch is a program that we done in conjunction with the National Trading Standards on the Friends Against Scams program, and it's a really fabulous program helping remove the stigma around scams, so that people feel that they're not foolish, that it's good to talk about the scams. It's good to talk about and know how and who to contact should they feel vulnerable, should they feel confused, because obviously we know that the scammers are experts at confusing people and confusing people so that they feel that they have to react to what's being said. And so with the program, we encourage people to take those 5 minutes, talk to trusted people and identify those trusted people. And the program trains individuals to help people within their community, vulnerable people within our community, to feel better and much more confident about scams. So that's that program. Also, yep, they've put in about the scam texts, etc., going to 7726. I've had to do a few of those this week. There was a question on how do telephone scammers manage to get hold of blank BT numbers discovered when you do a 1471 and trying to return the call to discover that the number is not actually allocated. I think that you were alluding to the spoofing, wasn't it?
So we yeah, a lot of these numbers are spoofed. So and they'll spoof them so that they look like they're coming from somewhere in your local area. So I live in Eastbourne. And so I'd get a spoofed number with the 01323 code, which is the Eastbourne code. So it will make me think that it's someone local and it's someone legitimate, that it wouldn't be a criminal in an Indian call center, for example. So it'll make me think it's local. So it's something to add legitimacy. So yeah, so the reason why when you phone it back and the number doesn't exist is because the number was never there in the first place. It was just a spoof number.
Lovely, thank you. And there's a question regarding, and I'm not sure that you would know this, but I'm sure that you could find out. Do you know about any successful prosecutions or conviction rates of scammers? And is the rate high to scammers? And I know the answer to this, but I'll let you do this.
So prosecutions, the Royal Mail delivery text scam that we had at the beginning of the year, there's actually a few still going on. 8 people have been arrested, which is great news. In terms of the work we do with foreign law enforcement, we have had someone arrested, or a couple of people arrested and now in prison over in America, and their assets were seized. A $9 million home or $9 million home in Hawaii, along with a number of cars. These guys are living the life of luxury on our money. It's horrible. There are a number of convictions that we've had. Our strategy generally revolves around disruption and disruption work with the enforcement agencies. But yeah, there are good news stories out there.
Yeah, thank you. And somebody asked about they've got serious concerns around citizens' advice not contacting trading standards about issues that there should be. How can issues be raised directly with national trading standards, or would you give the advice that they contact their local trading standards team?
Okay, so citizens' advice, every call that comes in citizens' advice is logged by them. And it gets put onto a database. Now trading and the local trading standards teams have access to that database and should be looking at it. So the only way to unfortunately to report to your local trading standards is to do it through citizens' advice. The national trading standards, so we're not a reporting service. The only way that you can report post and phone scams to us is by joining the Scam Marshal scheme, and that's the only way that we see real-time reports from our Scam Marshals. So yeah, unfortunately, the only way to do it is through the Citizens Advice website or phone number.
Brilliant. Just seeing if there's any more messages within the chat. Someone's put that they are a scams champion, which is great. I am also. So that's a really a great thing, and it's a great course to go on. It's the same what you've seen today, but if you want to become a champion, there's an extra 10-15 minutes on that, isn't there? Yeah, so it's a really good opportunity, and there's a link for it on our website as well. So that's a really good thing. Is there anybody else with any other
Can I just jump in on the Scam Champion thing?
Yes, of course.
So having Scam Champions out there is fantastic. But what we do ask is that you report your numbers on the Friends Against Scams website to make our counter go up. And when you log into your Scam Champion page, you'll see how many friends that you've recruited.
Great, thank you. And there's been lots of people saying they'd love, they're pledging to join the Friends Against Scams through Neighbourhood Watch and get those things out to the vulnerable and to help support. So that's a really great thing. And also somebody asked earlier, what is a ghost broker?
A ghost broker, I don't know, is my answer. It's not something I've come across before.
I think it's more to do with investment fraud, isn't it? Something
It may well
maybe
be.
something to do that. We can find out for you, and we can put something out about that. One more question. How do we help people who are vulnerable to scams but don't realise it? How can we help that?
So it's really hard to convince people. I mean, it's really hard to convince. It's really hard to convince scam victims that they're scam victims. Most don't want to believe it. What I would suggest is that you can use the materials on the Friends Against Scams website, the materials on YouTube to show them. Think Jessica again is a great website, along with the Take 5 for Fraud. But in order to stop the criminals contacting these people, these vulnerable people, you can take those proactive steps that I mentioned in the slide. So that's the call blocker, that's the maybe even a mail redirection service if they're particularly vulnerable, so that then all their mail gets redirected to a trusted friend or family member.
Lovely.
No cold calling stickers, CCTV. I mean, yeah, there's a few things you can do to help the really, really vulnerable people.
Brilliant, thank you. And just so that we know, many people have put into the chat, and thank you very much for letting us know. A ghost broker is a fraudster that sells bogus insurance policies that don't exist. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. That's a new one that I've learned today indeed as well. So thank you. Let me just check if there's anything else before we finish. Wondering about doorstep callers. Is it worth bringing police to catch in areas? And I think you alluded to that a little bit earlier, didn't you, about the doorstep scammers?
If the doorstep caller is not going to go away and they're moving down the street quite slowly, knocking on everyone's door, then it's very much worth dialing 999. You may not get an instant response. However, it should definitely be reported through 101.
Lovely, thank you very much. I think that's all for today. Thank you ever so much to everybody for attending today. We've had a great session, and thank you very much everybody for lending us your time on a very warm Friday afternoon. And thank you to Adam for presenting this today. And don't forget, you can still sign up for our psychology surrounding scams, which is on Tuesday, and I believe there's another one at the end of next week as well, which also continues our scam program, which is about online scams. So thank you so much, Adam, and thank you for everybody for attending today. Thank you.
Thank you.